Hi, I'm Anne.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Karin.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
So it's going pretty good. It's a nice sunny day in Ventura.
Yeah,
It started kind of overcasty.
I have been meaning to get my car washed for like a week, but every time that I'm like at the gas station or nearby somewhere I can get my car washed, it's like raining or like sprinkling. And I'm like, well, I guess next time I'll just try again.
Kevin and I both washed our cars like 2 weeks ago, and that's right when the overcasty, drizzly, like spitting mornings started. I was like, oh, that was very thoughtful of us.
That was good timing.
Yeah, because we like don't do that real regularly.
No, I don't either. So I was like, I really need a car wash, and I just it still hasn't been done. Oh well.
Nope.
How's it? It's beautiful today because we had 7 inches of rain yesterday.
Oh wow!
7 in our area, more like 1 inch, 1 to 1.5 inches. But parts, I woke up this morning and my weather app showed about 7 giant red flag warnings, and they're not like old ones, but all happening at the same time.
Right.
But none of it was my area. It was my part of San Antonio. So I just said a quick prayer.
Mean something different in your area now?
No. Well, red flag can be golf ball size or baseball size hail. It can be 60 mile. We had 60-mile-an-hour winds, or like last week. We had a tornado warning. That kind of thing. In this case, it was not just flash flood possible, but flash flood imminent. Please don't leave your house. If you have to drive, take caution, but try not to be outside because, that kind of thing. Wow. It's interesting to be someplace that has like weather, like real weather. But then today was the most beautiful day. I sweat so many pounds off this week because I built a platform from my husband's barbecue that would be, because in order to make it level, I had to build this thing out of 2 by 4 by 6s, 6 feet by 2 inches by 4 inches, or sometimes by 8 inches, with joists. And I was very proud of myself. I have giant cement anchors, but it was 101 when I did that. I would have liked today's weather to do that. Today was just gorgeous. And was I outside? No, I was not. I was finishing up the book. I was reading like crazy all day.
All right.
Well, I finished 10 minutes ago.
Nice. Well, before we start talking about our book, what are we working on tonight?
What are you working on tonight?
No, I asked you.
I told Anne when I sat down to record, I looked around and I did not have a knitting project that I had brought with me, but I found a potato to knit, so I'm working on a muscle burra or whatever it's called. This one that's been on my needles.
I need to change my attitude towards that, and just and not make it something that I feel guilty because I don't progress enough on, and just let it be the thing that I pick up whenever, and if it gets finished whenever.
Yeah, I haven't touched this in like at least a month, but it's just been sitting there. But hey, look, it's perfect for this because all I have to do is just knit round and round in circles.
I wanted to work on my stowaway sweater sleeves, but that takes some concentration, and I will be sharing the book questions. So I am working on my sock. I did socks and muscle burr. Good to have one just going.
Yeah.
So that if you need some mindless knitting.
Totally.
And what are you working on, Karin?
So I've got the first of many round 7 flowers in my thing. I've got round 6
in your thing.
Round 6 is done.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
Isn't it pretty? It's like a garden. And so now I'm at the...
Yeah, you gotta say more than a thing.
This thing is called Gloria Capelet.
Nice.
It's gorgeous.
And it has like 3 sizes and the difference is how many, like every round has 16 flowers, They start with really small flowers and they progressively get bigger. So this one will have bigger flowers down here, but then they'll have in between flowers and trim it and baubles on the end.
Cute. So,
very fun.
So everything except round 6 is what is woven in. Mm-hmm. I'll get to round 6 by the time I'm ready to actually attach round 7, which is all my color work is done. Now I'm just in my base color, which is kind of like this dusty brown. I want it to look like flowers and soil. So nice. I think I achieved that.
Nice. Yep. It's beautiful.
So anyway.
Love the colors.
And I broke the rules by a little bit, but whatever. But
they're your rules.
It's your project.
That's right. It's my project.
The designer seems to support making it your own.
She does. Because she has with each class group, Kajabi, I think, is her platform she has one that's just the classes and one that's the community, two different parts of the same app. And the community is very, very welcoming and, supportive. And she's like, oh, those color combinations, because I chose multicolors for A, but just mixed up where they get placed. So anytime in the pattern where there's A is where you see a row with multicolors.
Nice.
Like as a base color. So anyhow.
On to our book. We read Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami and translated by Asa Yoneda. I think that this is a time when the translator is near import to the author. So I'm going to reread the blurb from the back. In the distant future, humans are on the verge of extinction. Those left have settled in small tribes across the planet under the observation and care of the mothers. Some children are made in factories. Some live by getting nutrients from light and water, like plants. The survival of the race depends on interbreeding of these children and other alien beings, but is far from certain that connection, love, and evolution will persist among the inhabitants of this faltering world. From one of Japan's most brilliant and sensitive contemporary novelists, this speculative fiction masterpiece rewrites our understanding of reproduction, ecology, artificial intelligence, communal life, creation, love, and the future of humanity, and offers us an astonishing vision of the end of our species as we know it. So, start with the top question we always start with. What did you guys think of this book?
What an interesting book. I was working my way through it this week and thinking, like, number one, this book makes me feel stupid because I don't understand what's happening and I don't get why these different stories are important and I don't get why if or how they go together. But then by the end of it, I was like, because I was talking to somebody else about it, and I'm like, well, maybe by the end I'll understand, which I totally did. And I understand why the book is structured like it is. Exactly. And now that I've finished it, I'm like, this was a fascinating book, and I really enjoyed it. But for the first half of it, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I feel dumb as heck. But
yep.
But by the end, I was on board.
Karin, what was your take?
I usually like all the technical stuff. And I will say I finally started perking up the last 3 chapters. But I struggled. I liked parts of it. I could see the vignettes of it. And by the end, I could go, oh, these stories seem disconnected because they are isolated groups of sorts. So I just kind of struggled with it, but I thought I didn't feel that it was a fault of the author. I felt it was just me not understanding it. I thought there's something to this. It must be me because it's a world international bestseller. People get it. I just don't until she brought it around. And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Now I love it.
Nice.
It just, and also I'm so used to I realize I haven't sat down and read a paper book all the way through in like years. I always start off with one and I go to the audio component because I can multitask and I process better as a visual person. I was falling asleep trying to fighting to stay focused. My ADHD was really giving me trouble, but also I pretty much banged it out in the last 2 days.
It's why I want to. Yeah, it's not a big book, 278 pages. That's why I want to give props to the translator too, because I think an artful translation made this an extremely smooth read. Because also, like I read it, I started it 2-3 weeks ago, and I read the first 12 pages, which is that first story of what I think we understand to be some iteration of what the girl makes in the first story. And I also sort of, before reading the last story of Ellie and Lama, I thought maybe looking back on this, that this is some iteration of the mothers. Before I understood that it's what Eli made. That first story is very weird. And I love weird stuff. So I love the way that you put it, Katie, that I didn't exactly feel stupid, but I definitely felt like I wasn't getting the gist of what was going on. Like there was something happening above my head, and it gave me a very disconcerting, uneasy feeling of what have I gotten us into?
I listened to I finished it this morning, and then I was like, I bet there's some review or something. So I went on YouTube to look for a review, and I watched one, and the guy was saying he was explaining going into this book, here's what you should know before you start it. And I kind of wish I wish I had been recommended this by somebody who had already read it, so that I could be like, it's going to be weird and it's going to feel disjointed and it's going to be a little hard to follow, but give it a chance because it's going to all come around. And the way he described it was it's not a novel in the sense that you think of a novel. Right. And it's not even a novel in the ones that are so popular and have we've read a bunch of, where your timelines are skipping around. It's not even like that. It's he describes it as sort of it's not even a collection of short stories. They're islands of stories separated by space and time. And I was like, that's a good way to put it, because it's and you don't know where you are in the timeline. You have no idea if you're in the future. You have no idea if you're in the past. You have no idea if you're in the present. And then you'll hit a chapter when you're like, this is totally foreign to me. Yes. And then you'll read a chapter where you're like, okay, these are just normal people living their day-to-day lives. Yep. And it's I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Even having been through it, I don't necessarily trust my perception of all the things I understood to be linked. Yeah. For example, the tribe of people who have 3 eyes and slits for noses, and they number themselves by their households, and then they are eradicated by a watcher. Right.
I was so mad about that.
I know, because they seemed so lovely. They seemed like an ideal, because they were the one of the groups that's described later as the overly empathetic.
And I thought the watchers were above that.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if we were being told of the community that was eradicated, or if we were being told of a future version of that, because we are later told that the mothers saved them from the because in the first time we meet them, we're told that there's a plague that falls upon them and hurts their population. Right. But when the 2 characters are making love next to the lake, the watcher that kills their community describes seeing members of this community make love by the lake. And the girl in that story, she describes an uncanny presence, watching her.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So like, is this plague that descends upon them, is that the Watcher's wrath, and the poison crops back up every once in a while? Or is it she was among the group that was poisoned, and when we meet this community in the future where the mother's protecting them, are they the descendants of her group? Like, even after reading it and seeing the connections, I'm still a little befuddled.
Yeah.
By how everybody fits together. I think I could have I'm glad I kept my faith and saw it through. I think this is the experience I'm always looking for, of a story unveiling itself, and I get to experience it unfettered from anyone else's point of view, even though it was like, we all deserve a pat on the back for getting to the end of this book and letting it unfurl itself to us.
Yeah.
But I like that description of it as islands of stories, because that's sort of the intended isolation that the structure of humanity has in it.
Right.
I found it go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the review that I was watching, I'll see if I can find the guy's name so I can reference it, but he was saying that he discussed it with a book club, and some people expressed like that they either didn't finish it, or they did, or they liked it, or they didn't. And he was saying how it's his like intention when he's reading a book like this is to try and like solve the puzzle, and like, where do these pieces fit together, and that he wanted to go back and reread it knowing after the fact so that he could put it all in line. And he was sort of given a little pushback to say, like, I don't think that's how the story is supposed to be for you. I don't think you're intended to be able to piece it all together, because even by the end, it's still a little like, when and how did that happen? And I think it's all very intentional by the author.
Yes.
So
I do feel like this book is a one-way street.
Well, I do want to read it again, knowing that, because it was. I want to recommend this specifically to my brother. I think he would really like this book, but I want to be able to tell him, like, just let it happen.
Yes, exactly. I think, because I feel like I went from a sense of like tremendous like ill at ease to like feeling harmonious with the outcome of this book. Like, full transformation, 180 degrees from starting it. So I think that there are probably a lot of people who will enjoy the experience of this book, but you have to keep the faith.
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking, there's a reason that this is not an audiobook, because usually the books launch with an audiobook with them, but maybe this book doesn't work unless you have a chance to sit with it. If I had just heard it, I don't know if I would process it the same way. I have to think about it. There is something different about physically reading the paper, slowing down. It slows me down, which normally I don't like. I like to chew them up like candy. But this book requires that you sit with it, I think.
I listened to the first 80% of this book because my phone can do like voice to text over the screen. And so I was like, I can listen to this while I'm driving. And so I think I physically read like the last 3 chapters, because I was like slowing down and wanted to make sure I could get it. But I do feel like I put myself at a disadvantage by listening to the first half of it. And I also don't think it helped that it's like Siri voice. It's not like narrated by an actual person. So sometimes the things that were like you don't get all the inflections and things like that. And that's why I'm like, I really should have sat down and read the whole thing. But I didn't know that at the beginning. I thought it would be fine. I thought it was like, any other novel. I'm like, oh, I've done this before and it works totally fine. But yeah, I do feel like that physically reading it with my eyeballs would have been much more beneficial to my experience.
This book came out of the blue. Like, it was a full pivot from what I thought I would be picking this month. And I just plucked it out of, the stock at Barnes & Noble and had no idea what was in store for us. I found it overarching to be an optimistic story.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, humanity goes on for tens of thousands of years in a form that we could recognize.
Right. We're still human.
And then it starts over again.
Yeah. So can I take a sec? Because I was thinking about this today. After I finished it, trying to spell out how this works. So humanity creates artificial intelligence.
Yes. Oh, that's when I was so locked in is when the AI starts talking to us.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. At that point, I was like, okay, I get it now. So humanity creates AI. Humans start dying out. Their species isn't, our species isn't thriving. So then some smart people, Ian and Jakob, which I don't exactly understand them, but they decide that they have this experiment where they want to try and encourage human evolution by separating humans into different segments where they can evolve separately without interaction with other human beings. And in order to make that happen, they use AI's help, and AI turns itself into a human AI hybrid known as the mothers.
Yes.
And they
lives sort of, in the human intestine.
They sort of facilitate the human experience and nurture these mutations when they come about. Because it's also kind of like X-Men, right? Like special people who can do special things. So I think the mothers are like your Professor Xavier. And then... Okay, now I've lost it again. So the mothers take care of the separate communities, and then the Watchers are a group of clones, I think.
Yeah.
And they are just cloned within their same genome over and over. So they're always the same person, just variations on the same person throughout generations. And they're in charge of watching the different communities and keeping them separated and reporting back to the AI mothers who oversee the entire thing. Right? And then by the end, the human evolution has, humans have evolved into these different ways of life. Some of them photosynthesize, some of them have 3 eyeballs, whatever. But none of it really works.
And no noses.
And humans die out anyway. And then, for some reason, there are 2 human beings that are left, and the Great Mother, who is like the other mothers, but has feelings. And they start to develop the human-animal sort of genome hybrid, where humans can then be cloned through using animal genes.
Okay, I think almost that they're, what they called them, it was a word I've seen but actually didn't realize I don't really know the exact meaning of.
It's had something to do with
air stars.
Yeah. I had to look that word up too.
Yeah, what does it mean? I haven't looked
hold
it
on,
up.
I'll tell you. I gotta find that part of the book.
Here, I'm looking.
I thought it was interesting.
They're sort of like fake humans.
Yes, substitute typically an inferior one for something else.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Karin?
I did think it was interesting. I mean, we have this fear that AI is going to take over with movies like The Terminator, where the robots create their own society and live. But yet, when the humans died out and the mothers no longer had a purpose, they decided to go out with one massive bang across the world, except for the last Great Mother. And they all killed themselves when they had no more humans to care for.
Well, what I thought was fascinating was that take on AI, in that, classic AI, you're afraid it's going to develop past the point where humans can control it. This book spells out that does happen under the nose of the humans, because the AI is smart enough not to tell them that they are way more developed than the humans even know that they are.
But nothing to see here.
But
they're like, okay, we tell you you're going to keep killing us. Yeah.
Well, the AI develops compassion for the humans. And I think that they recognize that without humans, the AI can't exist. So there's no point in there being this artificial intelligence if there's not any sort of real intelligence left in the world, I think is what I've taken away from it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting take on it, that AI would actually care about the human race.
Yeah.
And it wasn't sudden. It took over 1,000 years. It took a long time. AI knew what it was doing. It was in for the long game. It is like, okay, we need humans as much as they need us. AI learned, hey, we tell them how smart we are, they keep killing us, so let's stop telling them. But yeah, it was a very, like you said, a very compassionate, very empathetic AI, not the ultra killing machine that is painted in other movies.
Well, I don't even know if it's like empathy, but that, because I think it's just that AI is curious, and that when the two have the idea to develop like human evolution as a way to like evolve the species, AI is like, oh, I thought about that 1,000 years ago, and it could kind of work, like maybe, but yeah, I'll help you out with that. Like, I think it's more of a thought experiment at that point, that they're like, well, let's see.
Mutualistic symbiosis, where both species benefit parasitism, where the other species benefit at the expense of the other. So it's a mutualism. Like she does describe they describe themselves as a gut bacteria or a gut parasite, but really it's mutualism, where they've both benefited.
Fascinating.
I think the whole, like, the goal of Jakob and Ian's experiment was for evolution, which is mutations. Every time a mutation happens, they're terrified and it has to be removed.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, little cuties, we'll try this, but we know it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So
but I do.
Go ahead.
I do think most of the humans did not have special powers. Only certain mutations had those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it would happen,
there was that one that I forget her name. She mutated and she didn't want to necessarily have children, and I thought she went to the Great Mother, who then she became a Watcher.
Yeah, no, she didn't become a Watcher.
You're mixing two things.
That's Kyla. Kyla.
She wasn't a roamer.
No. She wanted to know other parts of the world, but she didn't. She wasn't a roamer. She was taken away by the mothers because she could scan people's minds, and her family everybody ended up hating her, even though they didn't know what she was doing.
That's not the one I was talking about.
Okay.
There was that
Raina.
one.
You're talking about Rain. Yeah. Rian.
Yeah.
Rian never became a Watcher, but I think they might have started cloning from her genes.
Oh, that's right, because that's where the last twins come from.
I thought Rian was a Watcher, because at the end, when the mothers all died, they were having the meetings with the Watchers, with like Jakob and Ian and White.
Yes.
And Rian was one of them. She
is a clone from the original Rian.
Right.
As was the other Watcher that joins Maria, Ian, and Jakob. They were both legacy. I think they're legacy names, they call them, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that those names appear again, but they're honorariums of the past characters.
There was a character in one of the earlier chapters, and it was a girl, and she was saying how, let me see if I can find the chapter. In Under the Eye of the Big Bird, where they're sort of watching her, and she leaves because her family, she thinks nobody likes her.
Yeah.
And is that the same? Is that Kyla, or is that a different example of somebody like that?
Is Emma or something like that?
Okay.
Oh yeah, M.
No.
EM.
Emma Jackson.
Person.
Emma, I'm looking at the book. Emma Jackson is the girl that's in Under the Eye of the Big Bird. M is someone who's at the lab when we meet Kyla.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, I have questions. They came from the Booker Prize website, which is a big science fiction prize. Under the Eye of the Big Bird is composed of 14 stories that initially appear distinct, but gradually mosaic into a larger whole. How did this fragmented structure shape your understanding of the book's overarching narrative? And would you say it's correct to describe it as a novel? We've really talked about how the structure affected us. But do you feel comfortable now that, do you still feel comfortable describing it as a novel?
Yes, I do. Because I don't think that there's a better... It's not short stories.
No. It's not short stories because they are linked.
Yeah.
It's just... It's like someone wrote all the chapters and then mixed them up and then but saved 2 special ones at the end to wrap it all together.
Yeah.
Well set in the future, the plot is non-linear and offers glimpses of a timeline that spans across generations and centuries. How does this format affect your perception of time within the book? And why might Hiromi Kawakami have chosen to withhold or distort chronology?
I sort of like thinking of it as like the remnants of the history of humanity in like I don't think this is necessarily the intention, but like new humans develop, but like how did we get here, right? Like I like to think these are like a collection of stories that maybe were like gathered together and put together as like evidence, maybe. I don't know. It's I don't exactly know why it was. Like Karin said, it kind of feels like the chapters were a little bit just like shuffled together, but I do think it was very intentional because it kept me on my toes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going next?
And we're talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that she may have distorted the time frame and chronology to make it still accessible to us. Because it's hard to fathom out anything outside your lifetime. Forget about tens of thousands of lifetimes in the future. For me, it helped keep me connected to these future peoples.
Yeah.
And also, like, how many, like, sort of dystopian alternate future books, sci-fi books are there out there? Like, this one feels fresh because it wasn't told in any sort of, like, chronological timeline. Like, it's a fascinating story about how human evolution and development and, like, you know, the human story work, but it would not have been as effective if it was told in a linear layout. It would have just been, I feel like, another book, you know?
Any Battlestar Galactica fans?
Not kind of. Wait,
episode?
Well, the original or the reboot?
I have a place in my heart.
I'm several seasons behind. I stopped.
So you don't know what the last episode reveals?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, if you ever get there, because it's totally worth it, you might remember this book. This has all happened before. It was a line that the Cylons say all the time. Kawakami toys with the narrative perspective. The eye of the second story is only revealed to be different from the eye of the first when their gender is revealed as male. The range of narrators also feels tonally similar. How does this ambiguity affect the reading experience, and what might it suggest about individual identity?
Yeah, like, we're not all as different as we like to think that we are. Yeah, it was if the author's intention was to make me confused, then they were very successful.
Exactly.
Which I think was her intention, but yeah.
Well, it's sort of like you stay connected, but you don't understand what's happening until you realize that this is a totally disconnected story. So maybe it was a way of uniting it lingually.
And after the first couple, I was like, okay, I get what's happening. These are all different people's stories. Like, I'm on board now. But once I figured that out, it took me a couple chapters to figure that out.
Well, then in the chapter that switches to the AI using I, we're you now.
Right.
That's the chapter titled Destination. You may notice that I use the word you. It is not my intention to upset you by referring to you collectively, the entire human race, I mean. So we're like still connected to the narrator, but now that they're talking to us, there's a like strong pronoun shift.
And that chapter also had to like take me on a walk because I'm like, who the heck is talking to me? And then they start talking about artificial intelligence, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got it now. And also the whole time during I'm reading the book, I'm like, what are the mothers? Like, what are these things?
Yeah, I appreciated the exact exposition of them.
Yes. I knew that they were sort of robots of some sort, that they were not human. And that the great mothers were different from the mothers in that like some of the kids would react and the mothers had no reaction whatsoever. No anger, no nothing, just sort of, that's very good, Johnny.
Right. Kayla would trip them and beat them. Like they're okay.
And they'd get up and go. But I feel like at some point the AI mothers said, you know what? I'm just going to take myself out of this. I'm not going to react to you, but I don't want to get kicked anymore, dear.
Right.
I thought someone else to help
they were like, I thought we were talking like aliens at one point. I didn't realize it was like robots, but that makes sense. I guess they're not robots. They're what do you call it? A cyborg?
I think of Android. I think of like, I know they're not Android either, but that's all I can think of. These humanoid like AI. The AIs are in, and they do live extraordinarily long lives. These like the clones do.
So that leads us actually perfectly to the next question. The mothers, the AI figures that oversee reproduction, raise children, and maintain the evolution of humanity, are central to the book. How might Under the Eye of the Big Bird, be read through a feminist lens?
Sorry, all I see is Sesame Street now.
I wouldn't mind Big Bird watching out for me either.
No, that's fine.
No.
Be read through a feminist lens, and what is it saying about the role of women in shaping societal systems? Well,
I didn't really.
You didn't read it that way, and neither did I, because I was just trying to like dog paddle, keep my head above water.
I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe the second time I read it, I will read it through a feminist lens, which is not hard to shift to because, yes, the feminine character, the nurturing character is the central piece. It's what AI chose to take form as after viewing all the human history and trying out lots of different forms. It's what they chose to be.
Maybe it is sort of a feminist idea to flip the narrative that men are only good for reproduction.
Well, I love the chapter where we first meet Rain, where the boy babies are very rare because men are fragile, and they say it so many times.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the mothers. There's a lot to say about them, but it's kind of hard to say more.
My view of the mothers is specific to each group or chapter about the mothers.
Yeah.
Because I feel like because we're in different I don't know if the mothers I think the mothers also sort of evolved when AI was talking about how, humans evolved, but also the AI evolved. So that's how we eventually sometimes got the rare great mother who encompassed more than just love. I mean, all that the one thing that they had was it's interesting. The only emotion that they really had was love. That they could actually, because love is such a complex emotion. We always think that's the one thing that machines could never understand. And yet that's the one thing that they exhibited of a sort towards their charges.
Well, I really like what you were saying earlier, Katie, about like that the AI evolved empathy for that which was trying to control them, being humanity. And we're sitting around in an age where there are groups of people trying to tell us that empathy is toxic to humanity.
Right.
Yeah.
And which is such a like mental gymnastics show. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but here we have this technological advancement we're terrified of. I mean, I'm scared of it. I don't want to speak for you guys.
No, that's
And yet in the hands of this author, she made it something soft and saving and nurturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said it well. Like, I have a lot of thoughts about the mothers. I have a lot of thoughts about this book, but I don't have a lot to say because I don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I need to noodle it around a little bit more, you know?
Yes. Yes. Like you said, Karin, this must be sat with.
Yeah.
You're a very human, a mother tells one character. You create things and you destroy more than you create. How does Under the Eye of the Big Bird challenge or complicate our understanding of what it means to be human? What message might the author be trying to impart on the reader? Challenge or complicate our understanding of what it means to be human.
I thought it was interesting that as humans evolved and developed multiple times in the book, I think it's the mothers keep pointing out, it's like, well, you're still a human. Like, I think Ellie is like, I want to know what it's like to be a human. She's like, you are a human.
Yeah, and you're doing it right now.
Even within the different, like, evolutionary, like, branches of humanity, they're all still considered humans, which I don't think that our current understanding of how that works would play out that way, because I don't really necessarily think that, like, every version of, like, Homo sapien or whatever that came before us, you would necessarily call a human in the same way that you consider yourself a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the photosynthesizing humans, I can't think of it right now, but this soundbite comes up all the time on Reels. I've got some real nice things. You want to come and see my things? Do you guys know that?
Yeah.
And like, do you know what it's from?
I don't.
Okay, you must look it up. I will have to like figure it out. I'm gonna as we discuss amongst ourselves on the next one. It's some kind of like Australian comedy show, and the character has like green skin and he lives in a swamp, or they live in a swamp.
It's shoot, what's his name? It's Noel Fielding.
Yes.
Old Greg. It's Old Greg.
Yeah, Old Greg. Okay.
It's Old Greg.
All I could think of was Old Greg.
Yes. Yes, that's pretty accurate. Now I want to reread that chapter thinking about it in Old Greg's voice.
I'm just gonna go see the gym now.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Back to this deep stuff. The tone of Under the Eye of the Big Bird could be described as flat, cool, and detached. In what ways does the atmospheric quality of the writing and the narrative style enhance or challenge the novel's themes of destruction and survival?
I think
it's
part of it is each group of humans, and even human-like, even some of the watchers, I think, develop these emotions of wanting to have a family. You have to have a sense of hope to want to create a family unit, whether it be with children or not with children. And the humans, yes, they destroy a lot, because of even the watcher who was supposed to be above that had petty feelings that were fragile.
Disgust,
but
yeah.
Overall, disgust at things he doesn't understand. Just because he doesn't understand it, somehow it's disgusting and it's the bad thing, rather than him sitting with his feelings and maybe doing introspection as to why he feels that way. Instead he's got to lash out, and that's common. But throughout the development of these survivors, they're all trying to form family units of sorts, whether it be some Jack, what's his name, and Jacob,
Ian and Jacob.
How did I forget that name? I thought it was that name, and then I thought, no, it can't be that. I'm just stuck on that name. But I feel like they're always trying to grow, and not just to have babies, but to stay connected and be. Some of them were connected, like even the emotional connection they made to Great Mother. There's that sense of hope, where there is that emotion, not despair, and very few of them got to a point of giving up in each time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find it flat, but I find it austere. Like there's an austerity to the descriptions of the environments, and the descriptions are certainly there. Like I can picture each environment, but there's not a lot of dwelling on surroundings unless it really, really serves what she's telling. I actually don't think it has a cool tone.
Is it a cult? Okay, some people may think it's cool because of sometimes things from their Japanese don't always translate into English, emotions wise.
Right.
Many things of that world don't get interpreted the same in the Western world. And it might be something that, kudos to the interpreter for trying to bring that over. There might be some things that are part of the culture that are not necessarily understood on our side, that appear cool and detached instead of warm. I don't know. I got the warm huggies every time Great Mother was encouraging.
I don't know if that is necessarily the case. I'm going to push back on that a little bit, Karin, because I do think that I feel what that question is saying about like a coldness to it, because I do feel like Anne, you mentioned feeling like a little bit of like I don't know what the word you used, like a dread, like I don't understand what's happening, but it doesn't necessarily feel safe all the time.
Yes. Ill at ease.
Ill at ease. And I think that was I think it's intentional that it feels that way. I don't necessarily think it's not a misrepresentation, but I believe that it's a little clinical,
an intentional distance,
and and at some point we're hearing. I mean, this is a humanity that is raised by artificial intelligence. Like,
there's
evolution could be like the human experience is totally different because all of the humans are different now. I think it's just a way at putting you a little bit at ease to be like, things are not. This isn't the same Earth that you know.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I get that.
There's a dreamlike quality to everything too. Like in the chapter sharing the same title as the book, the girl Emma says that she had a sickness and she was in this cold white room. And I really thought that was going to come back around again to be like, oh, it's all a dream, or like, she's in a simulation. Oh, because remember, Kyla ends up, they try to keep her interested when she's at the lab. Or no, she's not quite at the lab yet, but she's under the care of the mothers and not living with her family. And they put her in an augmented reality.
Yeah, they kind of pull the wool over your eyes with that, because you're like, oh, this is interesting. I'm learning about her family, and then it's like, and then she unplugs from the program, and you're like, oh, okay, got it. This is where we are now. But in like a nurturing way, because they're like, oh, you probably will like this. It's
So also the other dream part of it, like, did you guys? I got a vibe of referencing Wizard of Oz when Jacob and Ian, because Ian can connect to birds and other animals, and so Jacob takes them around on their rounds in a bike, no matter the weather,
Yeah.
So she's looking out at him on the bus. Yeah. It gave me, very Wizard of Oz vibes, which that could be theorized as all a dream. She just dreamed this all up, and it's not.
Right.
Which then later Llama is having a dream of humanity's history.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the primordial soup.
Mm-hmm. In an interview with the Booker Prize's website, Hiromi Kawakami said the meltdown of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant in 2011 inspired her to write Under the Eye of the Big Bird, marking a moment when humanity was no longer able to control the technologies we have created. Discuss how this concern is reflected within the narrative. I mean, it's the central piece.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah. I am grateful she chose AI as her technological storytelling device.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very apropos. It's very of the moment, you know?
The final story reframes much of what comes before, giving the book a sense of circularity. Did you interpret the book's ending as offering hope, or does it suggest that humanity is trapped in a cycle of failure? Both.
Yeah.
You only have 2 humans, and they cannot procreate. The likelihood that even within their life, I guess they can clone them. They don't really even have the technology to clone themselves. I mean, to make new versions of themselves to keep going with the experiment of what was all the little creatures reminded me of a Twilight Zone where the guy would form stuff out of clay and it would become live monsters. But I mean, eventually, I could see some of it. I don't know. I don't see humanity as we knew it, and I don't have enough imagination to see a different kind of humanity.
Well, I think it's sort of interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I was looking at reviews, and one thing that I saw a couple times was that the book is kind of sad, and so like by the end, it is kind of a sad story, but I also felt a little content in where we ended up as humans. Like, I think we can all agree that like humanity, as much as we like to think, might not be, long for this world in terms of like how long humans have been around, right? Like the decline of humanity as we know it, it's going to happen eventually. And that's sad to think about. But it's interesting how where we end up in the story is not a sad place. So I don't see it as like, I feel like it's hopeful.
Yeah. I felt the cycle of failure was more during the decline of humanity.
Yeah.
That it was like she illustrated that during the okay, you'd fight and you'd war and then you'd stop warring and then you'd fight and you'd war and you'd stop warring and do it again and again and again. I mean, every one of us meets our end. And they say that many times in this as well. So at some point I am not connected to the outcome of humanity in 10,000 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, there was an interesting quote that the Great Mother told Ellie and Llama on their 7th birthday. That's when she told them that they were the only humans left. And then with a smile, she added, "Hey, and since you're the same sex, you can't even breed. How peaceful."
Yeah. Right.
I thought, how peaceful. I mean, I'm like, yeah, okay. So whatever they do after this, it's just a peaceful, slow end. It's fine. They don't know any different, so right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Very much had as we're getting to the end of humanity, it made me think. I kept thinking of the Doctor Who episode in the first reboot season where they go to see the sun expand and eat up Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. International Booker Prize 2025 judges described the novel as an urgent inquiry into the implications of AI, the promise of a genetically adapted and machine-led future for the human project, but done in a gorgeous, ambient, non-doctrinaire sci-fi style.
Okay.
Discuss the book's prescient nature, particularly in light of the ongoing debates about the ethics of AI. I think we covered that. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it turned out that way.
I'm not smart enough to comment on the state of AI right now. Like,
Nope.
I don't understand. I don't like it. It scares me, but that's like my monkey brain to be like, no, that's probably not a good thing. I don't know.
Also,
I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't like it.
She doesn't want us to understand it. She's probably figured it all out. She's not going to tell us.
That's true. And they're like way developed past where we are.
Yeah. So
they're like, oh, silly little humans are going to give us little pats on the head.
I will keep making them the iterations of cuter and cuter cats. A comment on Eli and Llama's name. So Eli is it Hebrew? It means like ascension or my God, high, elevated. And then Llama it has Arabic roots, but it also, like, if you think of the Dalai Lama, it's another name meaning, a higher wish or elevation.
Is the last chapter, like, are we seeing the perspective of God? Right? Like, is that where we end up? Because Eli creates a new humanity, and Llama is seeing and hearing prayers from I don't know
creations.
where. And what's the presence? Is that just like all of humanity's experience that she
what
can
is the
feel?
presence that she
is
feels?
It that she's omniscient and like I don't know.
Right? I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because the presence doesn't come to Eli. It's like they each have a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
She has the presence and he has his play toys.
She.
She.
Okay, these are questions that the Booker judges were asked to hype up the book. How would you summarize this book in one sentence to encourage readers to pick it up?
Ooh. I'm gonna say I don't know. It's a fascinating. I found it fascinating, and I don't necessarily like dystopian, like that genre is not for me. So I was a little hesitant going into this, but if you give it a chance, it's a very like almost wholesome and sort of comforting look at a really terrible outcome for humanity,
Yeah, I like that. Wholesome look at a terrible outcome for humanity. You found it.
Yeah.
Karin, do you have a sentence to describe this book?
I don't know. As someone who appreciates dark dystopian stuff, this was very comforting. It's like a comforting handhold to the end of the world.
Nice.
Dr. Who boofing in on his TARDIS. We'll just pop in here, watch the end of Earth. It'll be fun. We'll have some zany times.
What's your sentence, Anne?
Well, my privilege is having looked this up. I'm going to read their sentence.
Hey, that's cheating.
Okay.
I have a sentence of my own.
Okay. Do you?
This is a chance to think deeply about the consequences or potential of artificial intelligence and what it means to be human.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Okay, theirs was a beguiling, radical, mind and heart expanding journey into humanity's future. I don't like it.
No.
Our sentences were better. Is there something unique about this book, something that you haven't encountered in fiction before? Yes.
I thought that this book was very unique in the structure and the pacing and the different. I keep thinking about how talented the author is because of all of the different sort of narrative styles that were told the story in. So I thought, I definitely see that as unique.
I only had one chapter that I didn't care for.
Yeah.
It was the testimony. Because it took him forever. He didn't really have a testimony.
Oh, he's a monster. We should hate him.
I didn't really get who he was. I'm like, this is the testimony. The testimony was being interviewed, and he never really answered any questions, and it was kind of.
Here, I'm sorry. Is testimony old Greg?
No, I don't know which. I don't remember what that was. That was the one that was told from
the photosynthesis guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that
why did you?
So there was just I kept going. I might have been trying to read that when I was fighting to stay awake.
Oh, fair.
At that part of the day, I was like, I can't take a break to eat something. I need to get further in the book. I mean,
Go ahead.
I started this weekend when I realized, oh my gosh, the time's going by. And I was a quarter of the book in when I started yesterday. So
wow.
I zipped through. Yeah.
But I read it in 4 sittings. Well, 5 to count the very first where I read the first 12. So I had a goal of 70 pages in a sitting. I got to this and it was like, that was so good. I can't stop. And then I read like another 40 pages, which didn't disappoint because the next story is the story of the miracle worker, the girl who can heal people. And that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
No, and I had other ones that I thoroughly enjoyed. That was the only one. And who are the Fs? That was just his name for a group of villagers.
No, I think that was meant to signify females, but because they're less conventional human, they're more plant-like. I think it was purposeful with language to show that as another difference of how they thought. They didn't really like name gender in the way we would expect.
True.
I thought that
and I realized that part of the disconnect was the interviewer and the interviewee or come from a different perspective. One person's just tell me your normal day, thinking of a 24-hour day. And the other guy's like, oh, my normal day started when I was 3. What?
Yeah.
So,
well, that was a time distorter too. Like that was like a microcosm of the time distortion we're already living in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my brain was like all over the place there, but it was a very comforting book. I gotta say, for a book about the end of humanity, it's a long, slow decline.
Mm-hmm.
I think my part of my little lifetime's like a little blip.
Yep.
So,
what they said was unique. This is a book of effervescent newness, new ways of seeing human beings, new languages of feeling, described by new species whose bodies and brains do new things. Go ahead.
AI wrote that interview.
These are literary judges.
Are they?
I hope
not. Or are they AI?
The International Booker Prize is a really renowned.
Okay, I just want to make sure they didn't do chat G. I don't know all the letters.
That would be so. That'd be so bad. I'm not discounting your impression of it, Karen. It'd be really bad.
No, I'm just saying some of those words feel too overly flowery.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just their perspective, and that's fine.
Well, yeah. This is a book of effervescent newness. I love it. I'm gonna maybe steal it.
Okay.
What do you think it is about this book that readers will not only admire but really love? Its freshness, its optimism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I want to live in nature the way they live in nature, and I want to put my consciousness in a bird so I can fly.
That would be so cool. The visionary strangeness is utterly enchanting. It's spending time in a parallel universe, but navigating with a map made of contemporary. That's good.
That is good.
I want to read it one more time. Or The visionary strangeness is utterly enchanting. It's like spending time in a parallel universe, but navigating with a map made of contemporary feelings. Nailed it.
It's almost like you're telling me a story about like an alien race or an alien species, or this is another planet, but it's not. This is humans. This is Earth, and yeah, it's an interesting perspective from us living in the year 2025 and like the way that we understand how humanity works. I think newness is a good way to describe it. Everything is different.
Yep. Can you tell us about any particular characters that readers might connect with and why? So I guess I'd like to hear who you connected with the most.
You gotta look through the book.
I don't know if it was just the first story that it's the first story of the book, but I liked the was it Keepsakes? I think that was my favorite, and I thought that was sort of like the template for the rest of the book, was like told from the perspective of like the new humans that are like the animal clone hybrid humans. Because it, like the rest of the book, it really took you on a walk, because it was like, oh, you don't know what kind of animal you're born from until you die, and then you can tell from this one specific bone, and some people do and some people don't want to know. And I was like, this is I thought that was going to be what the book was about, but
yeah, same.
I don't know if I necessarily like related to any of those characters, but I did think that story was one of my favorite ones. That and the Miracle Worker.
Yeah.
Who's the Watcher in that? Is that
Maria?
Maria. Okay.
So because she told the best, like the story I liked the best, Maria would be the character I felt most connected with.
Yeah.
I'm just reflecting now that you bring us back to that her husband was human because he had an Adam's apple as his tiny bone.
Oh yeah.
So they do figure out making human.
You're right. Some point. Yeah, they said that there are
that's humans. Right.
Some humans exist, but they're rare or something like that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Have you found one, Karin?
Yeah. The dancing child. I even love the child was trouble from the start. I just love everything about it. It's just that her brain doesn't work like everybody else's. So I totally get that. And she's always asking questions that the other kids, they just go along and they do their work, but she's always asking questions. Well, why? Why is that one different? You know, what's the outside? What's over there? And
did that character come back? Or was that character reference?
I was trying to figure that out, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna have to look for that the next time.
It's like, why don't you all want to dance with me? It's real fun. And they all looked at her confused, like, what?
Hold on. Actually, something because that child had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
The mother swiftly took the baby away and called in the next watcher. The child settled among the women of the region and went on to have several more children, 3 girls and 5 boys. The child,
I feel like the dancing child was
the child
Rianne's mom.
So that's where Rianne comes in first.
It's Rianne's mom.
Okay, got it.
So the dancing child was Rianne's mom.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you thought about that.
I like her.
And the Kyla is married to Noah. Is that his name?
Yeah.
And they have children. And then you're first told the story from Noah's perspective and how Kyla is like wonderful, pure good person. But then he has like a mental breakdown because they don't pair well together. And the mothers know that going into it. But then you're told Kyla's story and you get her perspective of it. And I'm like, this is the same character? Because these don't sound like the same character.
Right. Yeah.
I actually really appreciated seeing his perspective, and her perspective.
Yeah, I thought that was very powerful.
Also, that I was sad to think those children of hers were not his.
Oh, I think one of them was.
I don't know.
No,
she was messing around.
They're both
They're
his
both
children.
from
They're both
number
the
2.
neighbor's children. Yeah.
Oh, I thought one of them was.
It's a good thing none of them were born with the third eye, though. Like that was rolling some dice.
Or no nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been a pretty easy tell.
Yeah. She says something to Noah that is almost like a confession that I realized after, like when we read hers, she says something like he's kind of like not connecting with his children. And she said something about like how you love the children of number 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you love number 2 children more than your own or whatever.
Yeah. The judges liked Jacob and Ian. There's a remarkable couple, Jacob and Ian, who we begin to realize are many thousands of years old and can move between consciousnesses and leap between species, but are delightfully ordinary, even normal, just like us. Although it's a work of fiction, is there anything about it that's especially relevant to issues we're confronting in today's world? Yes. AI. It's a decline of humanity, people being awful to each other. Their response was, it's an urgent inquiry into the implications of AI, the promise of a genetically adapted or machine-led, they said this somewhere else, machine-led future for the human project, but done in a gorgeous, ambient, non-doctrinaire sci-fi style. Is there one specific moment in the book that has stuck in your mind, and if so, why? Oof. I'm going to be thinking about parts of this book all the time.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because the other book I was going to choose came from someone's like comment section on tell me a book you think about almost every day.
Yeah.
This is going to become one of those books, I think.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like I'm gonna keep coming back to this and either revealing more as I think about it or just becoming more confused and I don't know what direction I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Right on. So I can't pick one part. I'm going to be thinking about all of it for a long time. Their answer is there's a description of a deep future mourning ritual in which a single bone is given back to the life partner of the deceased so that they might finally know what genetic material their loved one was created from, and it is profoundly beautiful.
I
mentioned that one.
I thought that was cool.
And now I'm remembering. Remember when Eli goes out and lives in nature for a while, and she brings back bone dust and a little fragment of bone to give Llama? Oh, it's so beautiful, so circular.
Yeah. I love it. She saved the best part for her sister.
Yeah. It was a good one. But boy, it came out of left field. Thanks for staying the course.
Yeah.
When we all confirmed that we were meeting tonight, I was like, nobody said they need more time, and nobody was iffy about it. So that's a good sign. Meanwhile, we're all trying to finish it in time.
I was literally talking about this book yesterday to a coworker, and they were like, "What's it about?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, I don't really like until yesterday. I was like, I don't know what's going on, and they were like, "Well, what's happening?" And I'm like, I
couldn't tell you.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm really hoping that. Yeah, I was like, I'm really hoping that it's all going to just wrap back up for me in the last couple chapters, and I was not convinced yesterday, but I am convinced today.
Thank God. Okay, that was fun. What have we read?
Good pick.
Thank you. I was worried for my own self at the start there.
Where'd it go? Where'd my phone go?
Yesterday I was like, I wonder how Anne feels about this book, but now I'm glad that we're all full circle on this.
I'm very, very pleased and happily surprised that we all enjoyed it.
I have not read anything else.
That's good because I read a lot. I listened to a lot. I was in the garage cutting wood. See, we don't have, like I said, we don't have a power saw. So I was having to cut my pieces down by hand with my little hand saw that we had from when we had Boy Scouts.
Your shoulder hurt?
No. I used a chisel to cut a groove along my line first That way it was easy to create a channel.
That's
But
actually, isn't that a Japanese woodworking technique?
maybe
I think
I just know
I've
that
seen
if I
something like
don't,
that.
I just know that if I don't, the saw goes crooked, and I just don't want to have crooked cuts. So, I did I already talk about Storm Dawn of a Goddess?
Doesn't sound familiar yet.
That was by Tiffany D. Jackson. I do have the physical book, and I was really surprised when I opened it, thinking because the outside looks like a graphic novel. It's not. It's an actual literary book, so that was really fun. But I actually listened to that because, like I said, I finished The Color of Compromise by Jamar Tisby. That is a really good book. It talks about how the evangelical church, has historically had a hand in keeping white supremacy and slavery of sorts alive from the beginning of the founding of our, and so the history of the church's what's the word? It starts with a C. Their complicity in keeping it going, even up through more modern times. Like even with Billy Graham, he wasn't complicit, but he wasn't denying it. He capitulated in many ways. So that was really a fascinating book, and I would read more by Jamar Tisby. I finished The Library of the Dead. It's a trilogy. When I think I just wasn't in a good mindset before. I had too much going on, so that one I enjoyed. My Sister, the Serial Killer by
I was thinking about getting that soon.
Ian Kind Braithwaite. That was good. That was really good. There's a nice twist
I've
to
looked at
it.
it a million times. It totally seems up my alley.
Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, about the data bias in studies in medicine, in policies that do not, and it's not just in the US, but it's a global, it's taken as a global, she's taking data globally. So it's a global issue where the role of women and the importance of women is lessened and diminished culturally across the globe. And even within how data and policies are made, how many of the, some of the things Midol, the early tests for Midol were no women were in the tests.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? Women's pain tolerance, lots of things. Just all the research that on the research teams that went into that, there were not women researchers involved in many of these researchers that got grants that then created policy. So Invisible Women is a really, really good book for that. I am currently partway through Infinity Alchemist. Anne, didn't you read that? Or someone read that, I thought, and recommended it because I had written down, but that's really good. And I think I still haven't finished Take a Hint, Danny Brown, because I have to be in the right mindset. So and sometimes my earbuds aren't working, and I can't really listen to that out loud when I'm cooking in the kitchen because I just don't know who's going to be coming in. So it's scenes. Yeah, I take something out of the oven just before dinner. I'm like, this is a spicy scene, and I'm cooking spicy food, and people are coming in to sit down at the table, but they can't hear it because it's in my ears. Let me just pause here.
I love listening to that stuff at work.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I've read so far.
Yeah,
this is a really good month.
Right, I had some time off, so I listened to a bunch of books back to back. It was just delicious.
Nice.
I read the Book of Elsewhere by Keanu Reeves and China Mayville. I was looking at my timeline. It looks like I finished it right when we recorded last time, so I wasn't sure if I shared it or not. It's based on an existing graphic novel, but it was in kind of fun. It's Keanu Reeves' first novel. China Mayville is a serious communist, so his perspectives are always very interesting. It's about like this guy who is like, well, tens of thousands of years old, like from before the dawn of time. He was wished into existence by his mother to protect his people, and he's a berserker. And then
Remind
he
me what
meets
that is.
others. A berserker is like someone who goes into war and just like all out, like complete, like extreme violence.
Okay.
And so
That's the term,
like,
gone berserk.
yeah. And but he also like has a desire to no longer be what he is. He doesn't want to die, but he doesn't want to be immortal and unkillable anymore. He wants to just be human. And it felt like very open ended, so maybe there'll be more. I just finished What Does That Feel Like, Magda Eklund by Anna Montague, and it was read by Cynthia Nixon, which is important because it's something I haven't really encountered. It's a book about a woman who turned 70, and you think at first it's a book about friendship, but really it's a book about not being able to love who you want to love, and not ever getting their love in return in a romantic way outside of friendship. And it
Cynthia
was
Nixon related to, was she a presidential person?
No, Cynthia Nixon is from Sex and the City. She was the redhead.
Oh, okay.
And I think she publicly came out later, like after Sex and the City was done, I believe, or maybe after it was very popular. So it was very good. Oftentimes, stuff that is read by professional actors tends to be really well performed. And it's called Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. Fantastic. This girl gets a chance to meet her boy band crush. She's a successful Politico, and it's fun, but it also talks about universal basic income. And so I'm like, this is the most perfect propaganda package to talk about universal basic income. I love it. I want everyone to read it. And you get like a cute, steamy love story alongside it.
I love that. What was that called?
Big Fan.
Nice.
It was really cute. And
I like that.
Socially aware.
Love it.
The Heart of Winter by Kevin Barry. I picked this up at the library back in like January when it felt like, oh, this is very like, the way you feel in the dead of winter, even in sunny California. And I didn't really get through it because I didn't make time to. It is a gritty Western that is also very like sensual and sumptuous.
Wow.
Very good. I really, really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I was liking it at first because the grit was there. It's set in Butte. Butte is in Montana, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's set in Butte, Montana, and this girl is a mail order bride essentially, and she comes over and she marries the guy she's been talking to in very dry letters, but falls in love with the town drunk / poet, and it goes on from there, and it's really good.
I like that. That sounds good.
On the list, from the same list of books that people think about every day or all the time after they read them, All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Witocki. And that's a story of, so there's this book called A Little Life, and it essentially centers around a guy who was misused as a child, and then he almost dies at the hands of a serial killer. And instead he's mangled and lives this life that is, I'm spoiling this because I don't actually necessarily think I would recommend this book to people, even though I had a strong emotional experience, and you'll see it on a lot of people's lists. This, All the Colors of the Dark, is the same kind of thing where someone is kidnapped by a serial killer. He's kept in the dark for a full year, and then the rest of his life is about helping the girls that he thinks this guy has hurt in helping missing women.
Wow.
And it shapes his entire life.
Interesting.
And he has a best friend who like loves and adores him. It's just really, really, really beautiful without the emotional. Because sometimes I like really love a little life, and sometimes I feel manipulated by it. I didn't feel like I could feel this book deeply, and there was no emotional manipulation. And Good. It was a really like layered story that takes like it spans decades to tell. Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall, that was recommended by some of our knitters. That is set in 1960s, 1968, 1969 in England, in like a little country town, and it's a whodunit. There's a love triangle. It's very compelling, and that's all I want to say about it because I think it's worth reading. It's pretty popular right now. I came across The Essex Serpent, which I thought might be something like spooky and witchy. No, it's a period piece set in country London, or not country London. There's some parts that happen in London, but that felt like early 1900s. There's this woman who is very well off, whose husband dies, and he was very abusive their whole time together. So now she's like finding her own way, and she begins this friendship with the country parson in Essex, where they think that there's a serpent who is like a prehistoric serpent who is cursing the town. And in fact, it's really like an oarfish or something of that nature. And it's just this like kind of vignette of these people's lives and how, friendship and love interact. And the craziest book on this list is called Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor.
Yeah, Nnedi Okorafor.
I
have it on my shelf. Am I going to be happy?
Okay. It was really good, Karin.
I'm excited to read that next. Okay.
I'll take my
earbuds out so I won't hear it. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm not going to say more because I think no one will be served by me trying to describe it. I don't feel as strongly that I can't tell you anything about it as I do Hail Mary by Andy Weir, or the Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. But Death of the Author, there's so much interesting stuff going on, and the ending has such a good twist. Just do it. It's not as weird as the book we just read, so you will not be a faith operation. You will be.
Because I do have the audiobook for it, but I haven't even delved into that till I could sit down with it properly. So
you will be engaged in the story from the very beginning, but I don't want to tell you what it's about.
Okay.
What are we reading next?
My pick next, right?
Yes.
Is it my pick? Yeah. Never Whistle at Night.
I've been dying to read this. Yes.
I just love the color. It's so pretty. The cover.
I already own it. I'm so excited.
Dark fiction anthology. So it is more short stories, but they do sort of connect. I'm going to read the back. Many indigenous people believe that one should never whistle at night. It can cause evil spirits to appear and even follow you home. These wholly original and shiver-inducing tales introduce readers to ghosts, curses, hauntings, monstrous creatures, complex family legacies, desperate deeds, and chilling acts of revenge. Introduced and contextualized by best-selling author Stephen Graham Jones, love that guy, these stories are a celebration of indigenous peoples' survival and imagination, and a glorious reveling in all the things an ill-advised whistle might summon. And so this is actually, it has several authors, but it's edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. So they've got editors with various authors. And in the front, I believe the name, each title, so each, on the table of contents, they tell you the name of the title and the author. I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that there was one I thought I saw a contributor. Nope, these are all new to me contributors. But it's interesting because I like that all of these are Indigenous voices. I haven't read a lot of I haven't read much from Indigenous authors yet, so.
This is a book on my to be read, so I'm very excited.
And you actually have the physical copy. That's great.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, I'm excited to read a horror story about what I assume is a Wendigo, so I'm down. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you guys read this little gem of a book that we talked about, make sure you let us know, because I would love to talk to another person about this. Not that I did not enjoy talking to both of you, but I want to talk to more people and more perspectives about this. But,
more.
You might have fresh perspectives. I'm sure you do, because you're all very smart, wonderful people. So let us know. I want to know. And if you read along with us for our next book, we will talk to you about that in about a month. And our regular podcast episodes where we just yap and talk about knitting and crocheting and all that fun stuff come out at the beginning of the month. So yeah, if you join us for that too, that would be awesome. And if you want more content from us, make sure you check out our Patreon, patreon.com/stringsunraveled. And yeah, I think that's all the things. So thank you, Anne, for guiding our discussion and for choosing a fascinating book.
Well, thank you for joining me in it. I was thinking this morning that this is a book I still probably would have picked up, looked at the back, thought, that sounds really interesting, I'm going to buy it, and then never pushed myself to read it, and it would have just sat. So I'm really glad that we have this. Yeah.
The book club is a good way for us to make us read those books that we have been intending to read. So
right on.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks, bye.